In today's video, we're making this text game portfolio. We are inviting the person who is viewing our portfolio and we're calling them the Wanderer. And we are inviting them to take part of this text-based adventure, fully made for a developer kind of portfolio to showcase our front-end developer skills. We have AI-generated art with lexica.art, and we have various options in the game that branches out into different possible storylines. And these are kept very simple for this portfolio, but with this framework you can basically make this text game as complicated and complex as you want. We also have some background music here that we can play to create more of a mood with the game. We can also pause that, of course, and most importantly we can choose to continue the game, or we can also choose to kind of dismiss the adventure and go back to start. And then in the end, as a conclusion to the story, the Wanderer, the person who is visiting our site, gets to reach out to us on our LinkedIn or wherever else we want to send them. It is also fully mobile responsive on every screen size. This is a beginner-friendly tutorial because we are using basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to create this text game portfolio. Let's get started. First off, click on the GitHub Repo link in the description below. This is the repository for the finished game. You're gonna go and download this whole zip. Once you've unzipped this folder, go in and find the assets folder. We are gonna drag the assets folder into our repository, into VS Code, and here we have all of the AI images as well as the music. We can close that. Now let's create our index page. So index.html, we're gonna press exclamation mark to give us our boilerplate HTML. Let's close the Explorer, save that. That's also, I'm already running here. Let's open this file with live server. Now we are running our server live. As I save the file, we see that it is updating, so that's running correctly. If you don't have live server, that is an extension for VS Code, and you can find that by searching for live server by Ritwik Day and just install that. I'm also using Prettier, and I'm using, Prettier is basically the thing that is going to be the other extension that is relevant for this tutorial, which auto formats the code in a standard way. So now in our index file, let's just call this the journey of the Wanderer as the title. Save that. We see that it updates. Let's close the Explorer to give us some more space. And in the body, we are gonna create a div. It is gonna have an ID of container, like so. And inside of here, we're gonna have another div. We can also write this by writing hashtag and title, which is gonna give us a div with an ID of title. Next, under here, we're gonna write hashtag background, like so. And we're gonna have another div here, hashtag story. These are the different elements we're gonna see. Hashtag choices. And last but not least, hashtag sound. And then in the sound, we are gonna add an audio element. It's gonna have a source. It's actually gonna have an ID of background music. And it is also gonna have a loop attribute because we wanna loop that audio. And then inside of the audio, we wanna add a source element. So let's call that source. That is gonna have a self-closing tag, like so. And then inside of here, we want to add our source attribute. It's gonna be slash in the assets folder, and then in the finding the music MP3 file. We're gonna give that a type so it understands what type of file this is, audio, MPEG. And then under here, still inside the sound ID, but under the audio, we are gonna add a button. It is gonna have an ID of music toggle, save that. And this is completely free music that we are using. So I'm just gonna copy paste in this here, and I'm also gonna add a link in the video description below, so you can check out this creator who is kind enough to create like 25 songs for free to use for us indefinitely. So check this creator out if you have the time. So let's save that. Obviously nothing is showing up here because we haven't given anything style or content really. All of this content within here is going to be created in our JavaScript. So we are done with our index. So next, let's create our JavaScript file, new file. We're going to call it script.js. Also in our index file, we want to link to that script file. So we want to write script, and then we want to give that a source attribute. We want to link to the script file. We want to also say that this type is going to be a module, because we are going to be using module. We're going to have another JavaScript file that we are going to import into the script file. So let's create that file right away. Actually, we are going to go to the assets folder again, take this file called textNodes, and we are just going to drop it in here as well, that we downloaded from the finished repository, because this textNodes is actually just a story that we have been writing. That I wrote this with ChatGPT, actually, another AI. So I'm going to walk you through it, but I think it's a bit pointless to basically it's quite repetitive. Every single story part here is exactly the same layout. So I'm going to walk you through the logic of one, and then you know the rest. And I'm not going to, we're not going to type out all the story here. It's going to be very repetitive. So just download it finished and then alter the story to how you want. So as we can see here, we are creating a module called textNodes. And this module we are going to be importing in the script file and using it. But we're separating it because, as we can see here, it's very long, it's a lot of text, it's basically one very modular part or chunk of the code that is better suited in a completely different place. And we are exporting this whole textNodes constant here that keeps basically all our story parts, our chapters, within this overarching array called textNodes. And then inside of that array, we have different objects inside of these purple curly brackets. And then inside every object, we have an ID. That's the chapter number. So that's the first page is number 1. Then we have the title, which we are going to be showing. Then we have the text that we are going to be rendering and showing as well. And that's going to be the one that is like animated. Then we have the image, which is just linking to the assets folder for every image. And then we have the 2 different options that we are going to be able to click on. And each of those options have a text, and then it's going to direct to the next ID object within textNodes. So here, if we click the first option, we go to next text 2, which means we go to the ID of 2. And then every single other ID, every single object has the same layout. And here we see that here we are creating a new branch. So we are basically saying, instead of going to 5 here, like we see here, the first 4 are just going to the next branch. And the second option goes to the first step again, taking you back to the beginning of the story. But here in ID 4, the 4th page, we are branching out to 41. And then in this 41 page is basically a whole new branch, and that's how you can kind of branch out to as many as you want. On 41, you could create 7 options if you wanted to, each branching into their own potential storyline. For the sake of simplicity, there is only one kind of branch that is branching out here, and otherwise the story just continues stepwise, one after the other. Here, both options go to 6, then both go to 7, then both go to 8, etc., etc., to keep this tutorial, simple and easy to comprehend. So that is all for the text nodes. We have this export word here. That is so that we can use this text nodes in our script. We are basically exporting it, and now we can basically import it within any other JavaScript file, as long as we have this module type in that file. And that's the reason for this. So let's close this text nodes. We have that now. In our script, we are going to import, and then we are going to say text nodes from / and then textNodes.js. And then it's grayed out because we're not using it yet. Next, we are gonna define some constants, title, element, equals document, dot, get element by ID, and that is gonna be our title that we created in our HTML. And similar for the story. Let's see, Shift D, then we can target all the next title words. So if you just press it once, you get both of these. And we can change that to story. Same here, target the title, Shift D, we target these two, and we change that to choices. Next, we are gonna create the functionality to toggle our buttons. So basically we want to enable and disable it. Basically, we want to disable the buttons when the text is loading so that we don't skip ahead. So we're going to create a function, toggle button state, and it is going to have disable here. And then we are going to be creating a const buttons equals document dot query selector all to be able to target both buttons or all of them if we have more than that. And then we're going to write dot / choice like so. Under here, for simple for loop, let buttons of buttons, sorry, let button of buttons like so. And then for each button we are gonna take it and we are gonna disable, and we're gonna say equals disable like so. Now let's render our actual content on the page here, our story content. So function show text node. And here we are taking text node index to know which one we are going to be showing when. And then we are gonna, if we have an animation, we're gonna stop it here. If window dot animation interval we are gonna clear interval window dot animation interval like so. Save that. Next we are gonna write constant text node equals text nodes dot find, which is a inbuilt method, text node, and then arrow function here, text node dot id equals to text node index, Shift Z, I think. And then we are gonna target our title element and then the inner text of that element. and we are going to call it text node.title, like so. It's not showing up yet because we haven't called our function. Then we're going to say story element dot text content equals empty. So we clear the existing text of the previous page if there was one. Then we're going to define a new element, const background element equals document get element by ID, and then we are going to target the background like so. Then we're going to set it background element dot style dot background, let's see, image equals to URL, and then parentheses, double quotes in here with a single quote as well in there, and then space plus text node dot image plus, and then space again. Save that. Then we're going to target the background element again, dot style again, and dot background size. Let's see, background size, and that's going to be equal to cover. Let's copy down this line, and the next one is going to be background, not size, but position, and that's going to be center. Save that. Make some space here. While choices element dot first child, and then while that is true, choices element dot remove, let's see, remove child, choices element first child, like so. Next, we are gonna target the text node, and then target the options, and then for each of those we are gonna say that the option, and then arrow function, and then inside of here we want to define a constant button, and we want to say that is the document create, let's see, create element, and we want to create a button. Save that. We want to target the button now. We want to target the inner, let's see, the inner text. We want to say option dot text, and then we want to add the button again. We want to say class list add, and we want to call this singular choice. Then we want to target the button again. We want to add event listener. We want to be listening for a click. When that happens, we are going to have an arrow function, and that is going to target the select option with the option selected, and under here choices element dot append child, and then we are gonna append the button. So that is creating all of the content. Now let's also create the animation for the words. So constant words equals text node dot text dot split, and we're gonna just say that is a string like this, and then let index equal to 0. So this is basically splitting all of the characters of all the words. Then we are gonna call the toggle button state true at the start. Then we are gonna target the window. We are gonna say animation interval equals set interval. Here we are gonna have an arrow function. If index is smaller than words dot length, like so. We wrote it wrong. Words, plural. So if index is smaller than words dot length, then story element dot text content plus equals words and then array index plus plus. So we're incrementing there. And if it's not smaller, else clear interval with window animation interval and toggle button state false, like so. And then this whole interval here is going to be for 20 milliseconds. Then we are going to create a new function. It is going to be the select option function, and then the option here, and then if option dot action is equal to link, then inside of here we want to open a new URL, window dot open option dot link URL. This is a link in the URL we already have in our node textNodes.js that we can change into whatever we want, and we want to open it in a new tab using the blank attribute here. Then we want to return out of this function, like so. Next, we want to define a const next text node ID, which is equal to option next text, and then under here show text node next text node ID. And then under here we want to finally call the window onload equals arrow function show text node with the first part. So it seems like we are rendering correctly the all the story parts. We are obviously not showing the picture, and the styling is not very good because we haven't given it any styling yet. So it is rendering though, and I think it is rendering correctly. So that's cool. And we are opening a new tab. It's blank, which is not supposed to be. It should open a LinkedIn tab. But let's get back to that once we have styled and finished our script here. We have a little bit left. So on window load, show text node with the first part. So when we reload here, it's chapter 1. That's correct. Let's get the music and button elements here to work. So const const bg music equals document dot get element by id bg music, save that, const music toggle equals document as well dot get element by id, and then music toggle, save that. Then you want to say that the background music dot loop equals to true to loop the music, and we want to start it off paused. Let music playing equals to false, and then music toggle dot inner text equals to play music. That's the initial button, and then when we click it, we're going to change it to pause music. So music toggle add event listener, click, and then when we do that, we are going to have another arrow function here, and then if the music playing is true, then background music pause like so, as well as music toggle dot inner text equals play music. And then else, if it's not playing, we want to target it, background music, and we want to hit play. And then let's just copy this line 78 here, paste it here, music toggle inner text, and we want to say pause music. And then after all of this, we want to say music playing equals not music playing. There we go. That is all for our JavaScript. Let's style everything. Let's create our CSS file here. So .style.css, and let us link that in our index file here. Above the script tag, write link, and then CSS, and then style.css is the default. And in our style, let's just target the body, give it a background color of red, see if everything works, and we can delete that again. We want to give the body a height of 100%, actually 100 view height. We want to give it a margin of 0, as well as a padding of 0, and we want to give it a font family of Arial, and let's see, Helvetica sans serif, that's okay. We want to give it a background of, let's see, of a linear gradient, 0 degrees. It's going to go from bottom to the top, and it's going to be hashtag 040404. That's 0% at the bottom basically. And then at the top, it's going to be hashtag 2B3031. That's going to be at 100%, completely at the top. Then we are going to have a color of white for the text. And moving on to the container, so hashtag container, we want to give it a width of 600 pixels. We want to give it a margin of 0, margin like so, of 0 auto. Then we want to give it a height of 95%. We want to give it a display of flex. We want to give it a flex direction of column. We want to give it a gap of 16 pixels. We want to align items to the center. And we want to justify content to the center, like so. Next, we're going to target the choices. We want to display flex. We want to give it a width of 100%. And we want to give it a justify content of center, like so. Let's target the background next. Background, like so. We are going to give it a width of 100%, a height of 400 pixels. Nice, showing up. We are going to give it a border radius of 5 pixels. Smoothen out the edges a bit. We're going to give it a border as well of 1 pixel, solid white, like so. And in choices here, we wrote wrong. Justify center is going to be justify content space between, like so, so that they are each on their side. Then we are going to target the choice class. I'm going to give it a font weight of bold. I'm going to give it a font size of 16 pixels. We are going to give it a cursor of pointer. We hover over it. We are having the pointer cursor. We're going to give it a width of 45% each. So they each take 45% of the total width of the container. We're going to give it a padding of 8 pixels, like so. Then we are going to target the story. We are going to say that the height is going to be 75 pixels. And the width is going to be 100%. The story is not showing up here, so we have done something wrong in our code. But let's continue the styling first, and then we'll see if we can fix that. Next, let's target our title. And we're going to give it a font size of 20 pixels. Let's give it a font weight of bold as well. Next, let's target our music toggle button here. Then we're going to give it a background color of #444. We are going to give it a color of white. We are going to give it a border of none. We are going to give it a padding of 8 pixels. And we're going to give it a border radius of 8 pixels, like so. Round that out. Then we're going to add a little hover effect on this music toggle. Let's copy this code down, Shift Alt down, and then add :hover. Then we are going to change the background color. We're going to say, instead of 444, 78, 78, 78. See, it gets a bit lighter. We are going to say that the cursor is going to be pointer. Let's check that out. Perfect. Then we're going to add our mobile functionality. It's a very short media query, max width, and it's going to be under 650 pixels. We are going to enable this styling. We're going to target the container, and it is going to have a width of 80%. Then we are going to target the story, and it is going to have a height of 100 pixels. And that should be everything to make it fully mobile responsive. Yeah, looks good. We only are lacking the actual story text here, so we might have misspelled that in our JavaScript. Let's see if we're getting, yeah, choice is not a valid selector, so we have an error here. Okay, so yeah, we have a little spelling mistake somewhere probably. So let's see, it is on line 8. Line 8, const buttons document query selector all choice. Yeah, we have an extra slash here. Let's save that. Now our story is being displayed. So let's check out if we follow through the story here. First of all, we are able to skip through the stories, so something is not working quite as expected. And we also have a blank page here. So there's two bugs here. We shouldn't be able to click the buttons while we are loading the text. We should not be able to click the buttons, so let's fix that. And also let's fix the link here that is broken. So first, the link problem. We see here that this is the link to my personal LinkedIn portfolio. Feel free to change that to your own. We see that we have defined it as a link URL with a camel casing spelling. But here in the script, we see that we have used, let's see, link URL, we have written it with capital URL. So let's change that and save, and let's see if we can actually get to our LinkedIn now. Let's see, skipping through the story here. It is indeed working now. Okay, so one bug down, one to go. The music is also working. I tried it in between a take because I can't actually play it whilst also recording my voice. But it is working, and it should be working on your computer as well. Next, let's find the bug that is making us be able to skip through the options without having the text fully load. I wonder if it is here in the toggle button state. Button disable equals disable. Here it should be disabled with a D. Let's hit save, and look at that. Our buttons are indeed disabled. As long as the text is loading, I'm clicking, nothing happens. And then when it's finished to load, I can actually click them. This is an excellent game that you can build upon. You can branch out to different storylines. And it's also an excellent actual game in itself, not just a portfolio website, but a game in itself that you can potentially put on your portfolio as a project. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you thought. And if you want to see more videos like this, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more tutorials every week. See you in the next one.